At a basic level, building an app is really just jumping between building design, data, and logic. For this mobile app signup form, we've done the design. It's basic, but usable. We even did a little bit of logic with our condition. We've defined how this button reacts to the user filling out the rest of the form. Next, let's define what happens when the user is ready to submit the form. What happens when they click this button? That is a triggered event in our app, which means we'll need to wire up a workflow. And because we want clicking the button to sign up a new user, we'll also want to interact with our app's database. Thankfully, the property editor is the perfect place for us to combine the power of design, data, and logic all in one place. First, before we go any further, let's jump down to the Data tab here, and that'll give us a better sense of the shape of data that we'll be interacting with. So if you've generated your app with AI, you might see a few different data types here. But even if you started from a blank app, you should see at least one, the user. Bubble gives every app a user data type right out of the box with email and password built in. You can add as many other additional fields as you want right here. For our purposes in this tutorial, our form only asks for email and password, so we don't need to change anything to the user data type. In a minute, we will add a new data type that is relevant to our sign-up flow. And you'll notice that there's actually an option to generate data types with AI right here. But again, for the purposes of this tutorial, we'll do it manually, and we'll actually be able to do it right from the property editor. So let's go back to our button in the Design tab. And over here in the Interaction section of the property editor, you will see underneath Workflows. Let's go ahead and add a workflow. This will immediately take us to the Workflow tab, where we can see the new element event that we just created. When our button is tapped, what do we want our app to do? So we have a triggered event, and we're now going to build out the sequence of actions, all of which have their own property editor right here, just like elements. So the first step that I think we want in this workflow is under account, let's sign the user up. This is Bubble's prepackaged action for building out a new user with their email and password. And in fact, you'll notice that the property editor here highlights the email and password fields as required for this to run. So let's reference the two input elements that we've created. For email, we want it to grab input email's value, whatever the user put in there. And for password, we'll do the same thing. Thanks to the conditional that we set up earlier, the button won't be clickable until there is a valid value for both of these. So that's good. You can see under here that there are some additional settings. We won't cover them in this tutorial, but keep exploring and paying attention to the different options that are available within the property editor as they change element to element and workflow action to action. What else do we want to do in this workflow? Well, a pretty typical next step after you sign up or log in is the app will take you to another page. So let's go under navigation and let's say go to view and the target view. I'll just say home for now. Here you can also see one of the settings that is unique in Bubble to building a native mobile app, and that is the navigation type, stack versus mobile. We have a lot of great educational material that go into what this is in more detail. For now, if you are building your sign up form on a mobile app like I am, we can just say reset the navigation stack, because once you've successfully signed up, there's no point in being able to go back to the sign up form. But again, don't worry too much about this. This isn't really in the scope of this tutorial. Cool. So this is already a pretty solid workflow. One really cool thing to know, if we go back to the Design tab and we click on the button, we can now view and even edit the workflow that we just created from here. This is super useful when we end up having either lots of complex workflows or maybe lots of different interactive elements all in one place. We can quickly reference them without ever leaving our design canvas. Now, earlier I mentioned that we were going to add a new data type that was related to signing up, and we're going to do that right here. So I want to add a brand new data type to my database to keep a record of each time one of our users logs into the app. Many bigger apps do keep track of things like that, and while you might not care about that sort of thing right now, it's never too early to start building with long-term scale in mind. And since signing a user up also logs them in automatically, this same button click is effectively their first login session in the app. So in between the actions that we created, we're going to do two things simultaneously right here in the property editor. We're going to create and define a new data type, and then we are going to set it so that this workflow action creates a new log of that data type. It'll be a bit clearer in a second. First, right here in between step 1 and 2, let's create a new step. That will become our new step 2. And let's go down to data things, and we'll create a new thing. For our data type, let's go and create a new type, and let's call it login_log. I'll hit confirm. And I don't want to jump around too much, but if you'll let me jump to my data tab real quick, just so that you can see this, you can see that my new data type is right here, login_log. It even has the standard built-in fields that come with every data type. It just doesn't have any custom fields. I would like to add 2 custom fields. We could add them here, but let's stick with the property editor and do it right in here. So I'm going to open up that new action that we created, and under login_log, under fields, I'm going to create one new field, and I'll just call it user, and it will be type user. And let's do it one more time. I said we wanted to create 2. This will be another new field that we'll call location. And this is going to track geographic address. It'll be field type geographic address. So now, if I open it up, we've created that data architecture, and now we get to define what data should actually be created within that architecture when this button is clicked. We want to sign the user up, which automatically logs them in, and then we want to record that login event. So for location, we can define the value as current geographic position, which is a data source unique to native mobile. And for the user value, we can actually grab the result of step 1, which is a unique data source that you can find in workflows, where it's directly referencing the product that was created in the previous step. In this case, the user who just signed up and logged in. Now you will notice that there is an issue that's present in the issue checker. This is expected. I have not set up my Google Geocode API key for this test app. I'm not going to worry about that right now. This is purely for education purposes, and geocode and API keys are not something that we're going to worry about in this tutorial. But try to imagine how you might take the example of this login log that we added to the workflow and apply it to something else that you might want to do for the sign up flow of your app. Maybe after a user has successfully signed up, you want to immediately add them to a team or a group, or maybe you want to send them an email or schedule something in the back end. All of that can be done through your workflows, and all of your workflows for a given element can be viewed and edited right here in the property editor. Okay, before we wrap up, let's just check that this works. So first, I'm just going to go to my data tab, and we can see our login log here and our user here. And if I go to the app data tab, you can actually view all of the data that exists in your database. There are 2 databases, one for development and one for live. We haven't upgraded or anything, so we don't have to worry about live. However, because I did generate this app with bubble AI, you can see that there is already some dummy data in here as well. So I can see 4 different user data types are already there. Let's go to our app preview and see if we can add a 5th. All right, we're going to add the user tutorial test and we'll sign up. And it looks like it successfully ran because I've now been moved to the home page. And to further test that this worked out, if we go back to our app data tab, we can now see our new user has been created. And that's all we need. This sign-up flow is in pretty good shape to start, but what if someone already has an account and wants to log back in? Next, we'll add an option to easily toggle between sign-up and login by learning about another powerful feature within the property editor, custom states.